Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to 501st. Today I'm going to be showing you 4 Tier 8 medium premiums that have been entering the super test for buffs, and I'm also going to show you some of the buffs that have been made to the Skoda T45, the Tier 7 Czechoslovakian heavy tank that will be coming to the game maybe in a couple months. So first let's go and look at the 4 Tier 8 medium premiums that are being buffed. So we have the Stg Guard. They're the same thing. The Guard just has a cool skin and it's only available for bonds. We have the T26E4 Super Pershing, which is a Tier 8 American medium, the STA2, which is Japanese, and the T34-3, which is Chinese. So right away you see that these characteristics are not final. They are still subject to change. They might not get buffed, they might get buffed less, or they might get buffed more. We don't know. We'll just have to wait until they come out of the super test, then onto the common test, and then enter the game. So we'll start with the Stg Guard. Right away you see that this is a pretty substantial buff if they keep it. The reload time, shaving off a whole second of this, and I also have all 4 of these tanks on TanksGG in a comparison right here. So the STG, as you can see, it has a very high alpha, 390, but it has a low damage per minute, only 1,743. But with this buff of shaving off a whole second, it will go all the way up to 1,800. So this won't, actually, I'm not sure. This is a bit higher than it should be on, because right here it says 1,670, but I'm not sure. But it will be going up to 1,800 if they get this reload buff, which would be a really big deal. It also gets this substantial specific power buff, almost 2 whole more specific power. I'm not sure what type of rating that is, but that's a very substantial buff to the compared to the 14.3 that it had. That's not that much specific power, especially for a tank who has kind of a long reload gun and maybe not the greatest hull armor. But that's definitely going to help the tank out, especially since it has 50 forward speed. 14 specific power is kind of tough to use with that 50 speed, but if you slap 2 more specific power on it, you can get up to that top speed a lot faster. And then also, its gun dispersion during hull movement and traverse is getting buffed by 0.02. So not a huge change, but still, you might see it a little bit. And so that's the Stg Guard. So I would say the main buffs for this tank are going to be the huge reload time buff. Maybe it's not huge, but it's going to feel a lot better. Even if it's just 1 second, it gives you that extra 130 damage per minute. And also that specific power is going to get you up to your top speed a lot faster. So the T26E4 Super Pershing. This tank has always kind of had a slow specific power, only 12. It does have, decent armor, but also its gun is okay. It's not good, it's not bad, it's kind of like right in the center. So the buffs that are going to be going into this tank are another specific power buff, 2 specific power to this tank, which is going to put it up to 14. And this also has that 40 top speed, which is quite good, but with only 12 specific power, you're not really going to be able to get up to that top speed very fast. But with 14, that's going to be really big for this tank, and it's really going to help it out. And also the gun dispersion while during hull movement and traverse is being buffed too, but on this one by 0.04, which is going to move it up to a very decent 0.18. And its turret traverse speed is being buffed by 6 degrees a second, which is like adding a fourth of this tank's turret traverse. So it's plus 25% turret traverse speed, which is a really big deal. Now the STA2, it really doesn't have that much armor at all. It is pretty fast, and it has a pretty okay gun. So what we're going to do is we're going to check what this has. So its dispersion values, which are right down here, they're right in the middle. They're not good, but they're not really bad. But with this buff, they're going to be moving up to 0.35, which is definitely going to help this thing out. Its aiming time is going down to 1.9, which is really going to help this thing be more of like a snapshot shooter, like a Comet or something like that. its view range is getting a huge buff from 380 to 400, which is going to be really, really big for this tank. Where's the view range on here? Right here. So this is going to, it's kind of on the bottom right now, but it's going to go all the way up to 400. That's going to be huge for this tank. And then for the T45-3, its total hit points, this one's a little bit on the heavier side because it only has those 14.5, but then also has those 200 on the millimeters on the front of the turret, which is really gonna, which makes this tank pretty heavy. So if you add on 100 more hit points to this tank, that's really gonna help this tank out when it's doing its brawling and stuff. If we're moving it all the way up to 1,400. Its dispersion is also getting buffed, but this dispersion is not very great in the first place. It has those Soviet heavy guns, and also its aiming time is getting a huge buff from 2.9 seconds to 2.5 seconds. 2.9 seconds is kind of bad to begin with, but if you shave it down all the way to 2.5 seconds and you get like some vertical stabilizers or something like that on there, this tank's not going to be those awful accuracy. It's not going to have those awful accuracy guns that you are used to on those Russian tanks like the Stg. Okay, so those are the 4 medium premiums that are getting buffed. Let me know in the comments what you think of them, and now let's move on to the Skoda T45. So right here, I have my old comparison that I did in my last video, except with the new buffs that are going into this tank. So this is the new ones, and these are the old ones. All the green is what's getting buffed, and all the red is what's getting nerfed. So the main buff that is going into this tank is its reload is going to be 1.6 seconds faster. That is a huge buff for this tank. If you watch my old video on this tank, which I posted a couple days ago, you will hear me talk about how bad this gun's going to be. It's really going to be an awful gun. It's not going to do anything at all. Well, now with this huge buff to the gun, this thing is actually going to be a pretty okay tank. As you can see, its damage per minute is actually better than all 3 of these tanks right here. Not by much, but it's still better. So now it's up there in contending. It used to be at 1,474, which was way lower than all of these tanks. And its HE damage per minute also went up, but trust me, you're not really going to want to be shooting HE in this tank. And then also, it basically added like 1.4 rounds a minute. So like the 1.5 rounds a minute got added to this tank. And its aim time got a little bit of a buff, and its dispersion also got a little bit of a buff. And then I guess they needed to sacrifice something to give it this huge gun buff, and they just took off 100 of the hit points, which isn't, I mean, it's gonna hurt a little bit, but also it started with 1,500 hit points, and it's not the heaviest thing in the world. So this is definitely not going to be that bad, especially for this huge reload buff that went into the tank. Okay, guys, so that's it. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions or you'd like me to do a video about something, please comment below. And if you have a replay that you'd like to send me or you'd like to join our clan, my email is in the description below, and you can contact me there, and we'll see you next time.